Okay, great evening. I've got a comment here that I'm going to read and respond to. It's Respected Swamiji. I found your channels a few days back, really like them, and I have a question. A question? No, you have many questions. Many questions, but let's see what we've got here. Legend says Sage Valmiki was enlightened in previous lifetime, but could not get liberation and had to be reborn because he eats meat. Okay. There are tantric paths which have meat and alcohol. Although all is consciousness, still plants don't have high awareness and emotions like animals. Well, how do you know that? Do you know really what's in plants' consciousness? Or are you assuming, just like you are assuming, that this legend has any basis in fact? Okay. So you go on to say most realized being. Most? How do you know how many realized beings there actually are? Or how many are speaking out and how many are just silent? Okay, again, you don't know that either. So you go on to say most realized beings were vegetarian and say once enlightened you just won't feel like eating meat. So is meat eating really necessary in Kundalini? Then there are certain Buddhist sects which eat meat. Yeah, and many of the Buddhist sects which eat meat are ones that deal with Kundalini. Okay? So again, not every Hindu sect deals with Kundalini. And this idea of this legend, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but if you read ones like the Ramayana, and you read some of these old texts, you'll find out that they were not vegetarians. Okay? Vegetarianism, the ideology of this vegetarianism is something recent. So, when they say the legend says that Valmiki, well, no, back when Valmiki was around, they were not vegetarians. So this is, again, something that's being promoted because it's what's popular now in society. So they, again, are going back and trying to skew these texts by saying this legend has it. Okay? But no, if you go back and you read these texts, you'll find out that vegetarianism is something recent. Okay? Now, when I'm saying recent, I'm saying like within the last maybe 100 years or something like that, Okay? But before that, no. Read the very, very old texts and you'll find out. Now we have... I love these naysayers of Hinduism now that say, no, they're going back and you're skewing the text. No, these texts were written way, way, way beyond. Somebody did not transport back in time to skew the texts, okay? So, again, it depends on what the sect is. Krishna devotees do not eat meat. Okay, they are vegetarian, but they are not dealing with Kundalini either. Okay, not only do Krishna devotees not eat meat, they're not supposed to have chilies, they're not supposed to have black pepper, they're not supposed to have garlic, onions. Those things are not supposed, but now modern times, they're eating those anyway. Okay. So again, you get these ones that start, changing the thing to fuel and to be popular with the people that they're dealing with. It's kind of like the shtick that Nityananda does. Okay. A bunch of fantasy that sounds good to uneducated minds that have not really studied the texts, that don't really know, have not walked the path. So they gravitate to these things and say, that sounds good. Well, I see animals, they do this. And I know what animals do, but I don't hear what the plants are doing. Therefore, I'm assuming. Well, don't assume. Okay? Read some of the studies of the studies that they've done with plants, and you'll be very amazed to find out that they scream. There isn't a reaction if you are coming to cut them things. They have a very strong reaction. Okay? Just like people think that somebody that's in a coma is not hearing, they're not, or they're in a supposed vegetative state. And they're quite aware of what's going on around them. So it's a very wrong assumption that's being made. Just like people that are on the edge, they're on an operating room table and they leave the body and they can tell you everything that's happening in that room. Near-death experiences. They can tell you everything that was said in that room, what was happening. Okay? Even though it looks like there's a dead body there. So don't make assumptions. Okay? And don't always go based upon, the popular belief spin that people want to put on things. Okay? So yes, in my experience, eating meat was crucial because Kundalini is going through the nervous system, and the nervous system will burn out if you are not grounded. Okay? So there are reasons why you eat the meat. Okay? Kali Mandirs, they eat meat. Kali is a representation of Kundalini. Okay? Do you not know that the Kali Mandirs, they still have goat sacrifices? Okay? So let's continue forward. There are two views. Some realized beings say after realization it's a play. Some, even after enlightenment, do penance and torture their bodies and fast and stay in absorption. Well, if they're still torturing their bodies, it's ridiculous. For what? When everything's fallen away, and you know already what's at the heart of the universe, for what reason would you sit there and torture the body? Okay. Okay. Next we have Osho fell after enlightenment. Osho was never enlightened. He didn't fall after enlightenment. He was never enlightened. Okay? Osho was in psychology, and he used a lot of psychology. Yes, he had some sort of energy going. That's absolutely clear. But enlightened? No. Osho was not enlightened. Okay? So let's continue forward. Osho, do you know his background? He was a Jain. His family were Jains. And he just fought against everything that they believed in, 180 degrees away from it. Okay? So let's continue forward. Can enlightenment be lost? It's not lost if it's true enlightenment. You could have a glimpse of something and then the mind reroutes. You haven't done the work. and the mind starts playing again, and then you're back in the fantasy and the illusion and the divisionary. You're back in Dvaita. Okay. But if you've actually entered into Advaita, the mind stills. One goes into Turiyatita state. Once you're in Turiyatita, that does not change. There is no falling when there is no mind. Okay, there's no falling. Okay. So let's see. Some say it's a play. Yeah, it's like a play. Doesn't mean you go out and do whatever you want. Doesn't mean that you're going to go out and start robbing banks or doing, there's no, so many of these desires fall away. You're not driven by anything any longer. There's no driving thing behind. Okay. So in that way, it's like a play. One finishes out their prarabdha karma. That plays out. Okay. Some may get to enlightenment and sit there and continue to be absorbed, wander around, and others become social advocates. So many different things can happen after realization. There's no one particular thing that has to be. Okay. So let's continue. You often talk about a settling period and rerouting. Can you talk about settling period after enlightenment and what happens? Do dreams and kriyas stop immediately? They take a while to blow out. Okay. But yeah, there are no more dreams. When the kriyas blow out, that's it. They're at an end. You don't have that any longer. That's finished. Okay. Here, it was a process of about 10 years of settling. The first few years, one is just in amazement at everything. It's like, whoa, it's like going from being blind to Technicolor all of a sudden, from being deaf to Panasonic sound, surround sound. So it's just like, whoa. Okay? Everything's blissful, just, you're here, but you're not here. It's everything has changed and nothing has changed in the world. So, for a while, it takes a while, and, there might be some kriyas left that they wind up, they fall away. All of that drama falls away. And then it becomes normal. It becomes the natural thing. Okay? That's all. Let's see, what else did we have here? What is the basis of law of karma? Say at the moment of enlightenment, all things are understood. Could you please elaborate? I don't mind asking these questions, but again, no matter what is said here, it's not going to aid you. You have to get there yourself. Okay, people always want to hear these things. Well, it's like birthing a baby. Unless you've birthed the baby, I could talk about the pain of this situation and what it's like to feel life moving, but until you experience it yourself, it's just words. It's another concept. Has no reality until you actually experience for yourself. Okay. So anyway, why is karma in place? Because that divine is, that big zero, that great spirit, whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, animating force, okay? It's perfection. It makes the ability for all of these things to take place. It doesn't guide and direct it, but because of its perfection, anything that is not within that perfection will develop karma. You know, things will be righted, the scales will be righted. So how to explain this to people? When you know what this great is, this divine is, that gives life to everything, it's a conscious energy, okay? So when something is out of order, it's going to pull that back to order as much as possible. Therefore, karma exists. Okay. Is there any free will? Yes. Okay. Scriptures say whatever events are to happen are predestined, and how can we react is only in our hands. What amount of life is karma and what amount is free will? Of course there's karma and there's free will. Okay, if you've done something in a past life and it's coming up, again, this other challenge again, you're free to react in whichever way. Okay? But that event is going to happen. But your reaction to that event is in your free will. Okay? Do you understand it now? Okay. Yes, these things like the prarabdha karma. Whatever karma came in for this body to finish, it's going through that motion. But you have the free will to make your choice how you're going to react to it. Okay? You can have an event, somebody comes up and say they nudge you or they, run into you. Do you not have free will at that point? What are you going to do? Are you going to let it pass? Are you going to get pissed off? Are you going to get angry? You're going to pick up a ball bat and try to hit him? You're not constrained to do one thing or another. The way you act and react in that situation is up to you. Okay? You can either act, learn from it, give forgiveness, or get angry, or have a pity party. So many different things, elements can take place. And you continue to get a chance to learn. You get another opportunity to learn, another opportunity. Okay. Let's see, what do we have? Most Western people who get enlightened eventually complete their journeys with Hinduism or Buddhism. Can't one get enlightened by Christianity and Islam? Are these religions incomplete and dual? No. Why do you say that? There's no reason why you can't become enlightened in Christianity. There were many saints that had Kundalini, that had, and they prayed and they were in some cloistered places. Has no, what I say, religions, they're just different scenery along the way. The end point is the same. There's only one God, okay? So why would you think that one religion is above another one? Okay? Hinduism, you can be just as lost in Hinduism as you can in Christianity. So let's continue forward. Is it necessary enlightenment will take lifetimes, or if dedication is strong, can it happen faster within a decade or two? It's not going to happen in a decade or two, unless you've had maybe 50 lifetimes before that you've dedicated towards the search. You do this many, many lifetimes, okay? And sometimes along the journey, when you finally start getting to the end, you will have glimpses, you will have, uh, direct recognitions of past lives. Okay. And what was involved in that life. If it's something that you need to know to continue forward, if it's something really important, sometimes that will open up. But no, nobody gets it in a decade or two. I have students all the time that think they're going to be the one person in humanity and history that's going to get realization in a year. And I laugh at them. Really? You're going to do it in a year. Okay, yeah, good luck with that. Okay. It's not going to happen unless you're creating some fantasy in your mind about what you think realization is, and you're playing that out. Okay. But genuine realization takes lifetimes to get there. Dedicated, surrender and continuing and searching and wanting this more than your next breath. Okay. Takes time. Dedication. Okay. Let's see. You often talk about surrender, and as I began an inner journey, there is surrender, but I'm not aggressive and motivated to change situations. I become too passive. Can too much surrender make us escapism at times? Well, when I talk about surrender, I'm talking about when you get to that last second and you've done everything that you can do and you give up your life. You surrender into that death before death. Okay. Now, if you want to escapism, you're not going to surrender into that death before death. Okay. Passive has nothing to do with that surrender that I'm speaking of. Okay. But escapism is not going to help anyone. We have a lot of people that want escapism. They want to go to an ashram. I want people to take care of me. I want to go play. I don't want to actually have to work in the world. They have a false notion. They're playing the game of spirituality, some of these people. Okay. It doesn't matter where you're at, if you're in the world working or whatever, you can get realization. Look at Kabir, he was a weaver. Okay? So it's not necessary to run away and hide out somewhere. Do it wherever you're at. Nisargadatta, he sold cigarettes, bidis. After realization, he still sold bidis. He was a cantankerous old guy. Okay? People think after enlightenment you're going to have this change in persona. He was cantankerous to begin with. He was cantankerous after. Okay? The basic personality does not change. Okay? Just the consciousness changes. Okay, the awareness changes. But the basic personality is the basic personality. Okay, he was cantankerous, he remained cantankerous. He sold cigarettes, smoked cigarettes before, he continued that after. Okay. Again, so if you're looking at externals to prove something, you're not going to find it that way. Okay. Let's see. Why some saints still do dualistic devotion after enlightenment. Sometimes, some saints will continue to do something as a motivating factor for others. Okay. To help others with their journeys. Why is God referred as light? You said the screen of your mind is blank. You're not seeing lights. Why then is God called light? Because he gives wisdom to everything. God makes everything possible. Okay? Gives the availability for wisdom. Wisdom is light. All energy is light. The faster it moves, the more light it produces. Okay? It's the light beyond lights. A light beyond lights. Not a physical light. That's too slow. Okay? God is faster than physical light. Okay? God is like, it's like I say, God is like the zero. The zero looks within itself, it has nothing. But you put a zero behind a one, what happens? All of a sudden that one has become 10. Put another zero, it's become 100. Put another zero, it becomes 1,000. It increases, increases, increases. Okay. It's that God energy which allows all these things to take place. It gives that ability for things to expand. Okay. Some saints say it's an endless journey. Even after transcending mind and entering eternal silence, the bliss and divinity grows. What grows? And the moment one says, if something's growing, then it's in mind. Okay? And the moment one says, if I am completed, future possibilities of divinity stop. Oh, that's ridiculous notion again. Is there unfoldment even after enlightenment, or is that the end? Okay? Life plays out, that's all. Life goes on. Life is eternal. When everything falls away and one is within that is, and there's no me, no world, just simply that eternal is, in that moment it hits. I've never been born, I've never died. I am this eternal is. That's all that exists, is this eternal is. Okay? So at once one becomes much more than they ever were and much less. Okay? It's playing out through this form. It's all. The eternal is. So I like the way you said you have a question. Better you'd said, I have numerous questions, unending questions. A question. And again, sometimes I'll answer, but it doesn't do, how much good did it really do you? Whether you adopt what somebody says as fact or not, it's still a concept. Until you have entered that place where it's a direct experience. You have to have direct experience, not a bunch of things you gathered and collected as to what someone else has experienced or what is their living reality. Okay? That's why some teachers don't speak. They give you your practice and that's it. They don't allow questions. They don't answer any of these things. Why? Because it's not really going to benefit you. Oh, maybe it's going to, still your mind for a second, but then it might give you something else to be cranking on. And that's why people like ones like Nityananda, fantasy mode, that can continue to just spew out these ridiculous things that give something for their mind to spin on and chase after and try to create. but that's all fantasy drama. Okay. The path is not about growing. I'm going to grow and I'm going to grow and I'm going to grow and I'm going to become godlike. That's what people think. They think, I'm going to get to realization and I'm going to be this fabulous person, this persona. No, the persona ends. The ideology of being something separate person goes out the door. Now, it's impossible to explain to you how that feels, how that is in actuality. Okay. But that fantasy ends. It's taken off the table. Okay. It implodes. There's nothing but that great is. Bottom line. It's an energy that moves and it animates these vehicles. The body's just another vehicle, another form of expression in this plane. Just as in many other planets, there are many other forms of expression. And when one leaves this physical form, that consciousness still exists. Okay? You just no longer have this flesh body to deal with this flesh type of world, with gravity and all the other things that you have in this planet. Okay? It's not needed. It's not needed. And one transitions and goes forward into the next realm of experience. That's all. Life is eternal. Energy is eternal. It just changes from one thing to the next. Transitions, that's all. It transitions. But it's eternal. No birth, no death. Birth and death happen, they look as if they are happening, but they are just entering another body, another transitional form. Okay? Just like all language is dualistic. Really, when one is, in that space, in that consciousness of that divine is, no words mean anything. It means nothing. Because these words only have value in this dualistic plane, to your experience. But in the eternality of that divine is, there are no words and expressions that can that make sense. Okay? The divine is the divine is. Always has been, always will be. Unchanging. And it runs like a thread through all of existence. It's like one of the books, what is it, the Ashtavakra, or what is it, one that talks about like pearls on a string. Okay? This physical world are the pearls, and the string is that absolute, that divine is, which holds all that together. Okay? And it doesn't matter what's going on, that divine is never touched by any of the happenings, no matter what it is in this physical plane. Okay? Your mentation, your mind spin is touched by it. You adopt it. Okay? But the divine is is never harmed, is never touched, is never changed in any way, shape, or form. Okay. So what happens in, that meditative state when everything deconstructs? You've gone from being that pearl on the string and thinking you're a separate pearl to becoming the string. Okay? All of a sudden you thought you were a pearl, then you found out, oh no, something much deeper that runs like through everything. Okay? And it doesn't matter what it is, animal, human, tree, mountain. It all has the same amount of that divine is within it. Okay? Some things appear more solid because it's vibrating slower. Okay? It becomes more rarefied the quicker things vibrate. The more rarefied it becomes, the more that's all. And so again, when everything deconstructs in that moment of realization, it's like Buddha says, I'm awakened. It's like the light's been turned on. You've been in this dark room your whole life, blind, and suddenly the light's on and you see all these optics, you see everything for what it is. It's like, whoa. And it doesn't take a lot of explanation. You see it, you know it. It's like, oh, okay, wow, yeah. Okay. Then you read these divine texts of the sages that have gone before, and it's like, yes, 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 before you're trying to figure it out. How is that? How is that? When realization, then you're in that same space. That's all the cognition is. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, it's like 1 and 1 is 2. Very simplistic. Whereas before you're thinking it's like some big algebra problem or something that's, geometry, trigonometry. It's something, trying to figure it out. But, in that moment, it's like, oh. Oh. And it's like the great joke of the universe. Because for lifetimes you've been searching here, there, everywhere. Oh my God, going, to this country, that country, meditation, all these things you've done, and you couldn't have got away from it if you tried, because it's inherently the animating principle of your form. But you give this place self-importance. You give that place self-importance. So you run there, and you hear this is a self-importance. So you run there. Okay? Then when everything falls away, you find it's just as sacred wherever you are at. It doesn't matter. The idea of sacredness is a mental thing that people put on it in their mind. Okay, it helps you to focus at that point. It gives you something to go to until the great joke is revealed. Then you're just feeling like you feel like that V8 commercial. I could have had a V8. Okay, I was running here, running there, looking here, looking there. This sacred place, that sacred place. Oh my Lord. But it took actually stopping, observing, neti, it's not this, it's not this, it's not that. Whatever is transient cannot be the eternal is. Whatever is transient, what comes and goes. What comes and goes is not the eternal is. The body comes and goes. Emotions come and go. Mind spin comes and goes. Okay. Not it, not it, not it, not it. Neti, not this, neti, not this, not this. Okay. It's a process of observation. and going deeper, layer by layer by layer, until one comes to that thing which does not come or go. It's eternally the same, always, in every moment. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here. Thank you for your question, but you're better off, rather than asking so many questions, to sit in the stillness. Observe the mind, how it works. Observe the emotions. Observe what happens when anger comes, when fear comes, how there's an adrenaline rush in the body. Observe, question, look deeper and deeper, until you peel that onion away, the layers away, and you get to the very heart, the very kernel, the very seed. Okay? Then uncover that great stillness which gives value to everything, which allows everything to come into manifestation, and is untouched by any of the happenings within that. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to leave this here. Have a great evening.